Hello, I'm the CommanderZander. I remember it so the nostalgia critic doesn't have to, and neither should you. There comes a time where everybody, regardless of what they're doing, grows tired of the thing they've done the most, and they have to move on. But then, as time progresses, they miss the thing they did the most, and so they try and bring it back. This is what Doug Walker had to put up with when he retired the nostalgia critic after 4 years of weekly reviews. He was burned out, and he wanted to move on, and essentially hit the restart button. So he came up with Donnie Dupuis and Demo Reel, which essentially replaced the nostalgia critic. Not to the delight of fans, though. They didn't really like it. There were mixed reviews. So Doug Walker decided to make him happy and kill one thing off by bringing back another. This is the review must go on. So it starts with Donnie Dupuis getting together with his team to come up with the Carmen Sandiego movie where she lives a double life.
Yeah, I just need to.
And weird shit is going on. For instance, Donnie's trying to get coffee and magically turns into water.
This is gonna be.
And then slowly by surely, the actors are depicted off one by one.
Donnie, are you okay? Doesn't matter.
And then he sees something. It's! Wait, oh no. Because we cut into Doug in his work office trying to figure out what to do. Should I say plot hole and bring back the nostalgia critic, or say, you know what, fuck it, just delete this whole thing. So the next 19 minutes of this film, which is a 32-minute film by the way, is Doug Walker going back and forth as to whether or not he should bring back the nostalgia critic. So he ends up getting The Odd Life of Timothy Green when he wanted to have The Odd Couple, so mistake one there. Here's mistake number 2. Watching the DVD, because here's what happens after he watches the movie.
My God! Experience for me, you. But. Just think that this is how people would act!
He goes on a tirade about this movie. Just like the nostalgia critic of old, right?
Anybody would act! They would donate that kid to science!
Well, it turns out by reviewing it, he's brought the nostalgia critic back, as you see by the shadowy figure. And I know what you're thinking. Wait a minute, that shadowy figure could be anybody. Believe me, it is the nostalgia critic. He's brought him back.
When I first started,
So he calls Lewis, who you may refer to as Linkara from thatguywiththeglasses.com, to try and get his opinion on whether or not to bring back the nostalgia critic.
Lewis, but so Boyo, what are your thoughts on the
What?
subject?
Why is he talking to that robot? It's a fucking toy robot. Why does he talk to that shit? What the hell is wrong with him? He is deranged. I mean, seriously, who the hell does that? So Doug is still pondering as to whether or not he should bring back the nostalgia critic. And oh my God, he's brought him to life. So by watching his last review of him reviewing Doomsday Machine, he's brought him back to life. He's a deranged person who's lost it.
Quoting me.
And so you think he got rid of him. Wrong! Here he comes into the Facebook page.
See, I told you can't get rid of me.
Nope. Now he goes through Google. Nope.
It's gonna cause shit, Tinkerbell.
Then he ends up in Todd in the Shadows review of the top 10 worst songs of 2012. By the way, he's also working for thatguywiththeglasses.com.
Why would a song have a lyric as stupid?
And he gets into that too!
You can't make me disappear.
This guy's unbreakable!
It's off, Alfred Hitchcock. Get the hell out. You get the hell out. I live here. You know what? Bite me, Hamburglar.
So then he looks at the posters of the movies that he did, including To Boldly Flee, which was the movie that essentially canned the nostalgia critic when he emerged with the plot hole.
Say, you ever Google do a barrel roll? It's really cool.
And after that little moment, he goes to Walgreens, and believe me, it's Walgreens, even though they cut off the sign. It is Walgreens, to get tranquilizers. And while he's doing that, he calls Lindsay, whom you may refer to as the nostalgia chick on thatguywiththeglasses.com.
Tranquilizers. I take enough to kill a baby.
He tries to get her opinion, and she clearly says no because he has to do new things, although I believe differently. I think she wants all the nostalgic fame to herself. So he gets her assistant to help her get rid of the nostalgic critic once and for all. I know what you're thinking, and you might be right. So she... What? She's in a smart for two. Well, surely she ought to get out of that. I mean, how hard can it be to get out of a parking space that tight with a smart for two? Seriously, she's having trouble getting out. What the hell is wrong with you? How do you have this much difficulty getting out of a tight parking spot with a smart for two? That's the whole point of that car. And the award for getting out of a parking spot the hardest with a smart for two is... Jesus, she nearly ran their car. Now she's trying to get out. No, don't get it for traffic, you! She's still trying to get out. And after a quick break, we come back to her, still trying to get the hell out of that parking space, while nearly rear-ending the car in front of her. And look at that. Look, another car. She's backing up to let that car through. She nearly ran 4 flipping cars just to get her smart for two out. And then she finally gets out and... That's not Doug, that's Rob, Doug's brother.
Hello. Hey, Brad. I'm having a debate.
Then Doug wakes up from his tranquilizer dream, which includes Pee Wee Herman. Talks to another guy who works on thatguywiththeglasses.com to get his opinion. He doesn't care, and then he sees the nostalgia critic again. So he finally settles an agreement to bring back the nostalgia critic, and these are the 3 conditions. Number 1, the reviews have to be every 2 weeks, because when he did it every week, that's what burned him out. So every other week he did a review. The weeks he didn't do a review, there was an editorial or a mini review. The second rule was no cutoffs. So in other words, as long as it's not in theaters, he could review whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted. And the third was the first review had to be The Odd Life of Timothy Green. And I'll leave Doug Walker to explain why.
Why? This is the movie that brought you back. That made me realize I could actually do this again.
So they settle on an agreement. And Doug goes back to his work office. And does the one thing he had been struggling to do, and that is to type the plot hole, which will mark the end of demo reel and the return to the nostalgia critic. And we cut back to the demo reel part, and Donnie finally sees what he was flashed on, and that is the plot hole. The plot hole that killed the nostalgia critic and pretty much gave birth to this sucker.
I'm the creator of a web series that takes a critical look at nostalgic movies. I don't understand.
After confronting with his buddies who come back, Donnie ponders who he was, and the plot hole reminds him. He was the all great and powerful nostalgia critic. Much to his disliking because he hated being Donnie Dupuis.
Oh my. Obsess over all the little mistakes of the world. It's alright. I found someone obsessed.
They get someone to replace this guy essentially to fill the void, taking over the plot hole. And then he goes into the plot hole. And while he does that, we cut back to Doug for a brief moment, relieved and glad that this is all over. So Donnie's back in the real world, and he sees the hat, which I researched. It was a cadet army type hat. That's the type of hat he wears. So he sees this, and then hanging on the door was the patented black suit, red tie, white shirt combination. So he tosses the fedora. Dead is Donnie Dupuis. Back from the dead is the Nostalgia Critic. He's reviewing stuff again. Much to the dismay of Lindsay Ellis.
Hello, I'm the Nostalgia Critic, and I'm back to remember it, so you don't have to.
Oh, you meant...
Lindsay, obviously not too thrilled.
That's really...
And she's drinking something
I'm gonna be
to ease the pain of humiliation. And so that was the review must go on, and let me just say, this was Doug Walker's best work ever. It was a great, great film that brought back the Nostalgia Critic, and I, for one, am glad that he's back, because ever since he came back, the Nostalgia Critic has been nothing short of spectacular. I'm the CommanderZander. I remember it, so the Nostalgia Critic doesn't have to, and neither should you!